I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students.
We see say for each other.
I see say because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday.
Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whichever way works better for y'all to tune in here, you're definitely locked in for just ever so slightly one of the more important days of the week, at least when it comes to us here. Okay, let's put in perspective here. I mean, for most people out there, this is the beginning of the weekend, the end of the work week for them here, winding down. And we're just getting going here when it comes to our programming and all the stuff we got coming for you up on this weekend, this busy Labor Day weekend. Hope you all got some fun things planned. I got a lot of work ahead of me, and not even just including this show, because I don't really count it as that, because we are prepared to do what we always do here on Fridays, Free for All Friday, meaning that outside of what we usually do during the week anyway, we are dedicated both hours of this program to all of your comments, all of your calls, all of everything we can squeeze in, because there's just never quite enough time during the week to get to all the things you might want to here. So if you want to get on the line, that phone line already open, as we got the picture up at the top of the screen here, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll be taking those through again, both hours of the program. And it's been quite a week here, and a lot of stuff going into it, and even more going on as of today, actually. I mean, we will take your comments and calls, don't worry, but just a couple of things happening, not even necessarily that too much longer, a little bit, a couple hours ago here at this point, a few hours really, about a bank robbery off of Vista del Sol GECU. Consider putting up the picture of the suspect on the screen here, but I got to say, as post-robbery or during robbery disguises worked, this one is right up there with them. Gentleman decked out in essentially what looks like a khaki jumpsuit, covered in then essentially like a high-vis vest that kind of goes down to like closer to his knees somewhere, wide-brimmed hat, heck of a mask. So I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say that anyone else should do that out there, but as your robbery looks go, pretty well covered there, and honestly, decently could have been expected to have been probably someone, just worker coming off the street off of the roads there. So that happened about 11:15 a.m. today, and shots were fired, and is why ISD had to lock down a number of schools in the area, including East Point Elementary, Eastwood, Scottsdale Elementary, Vista Hills, Eastwood Middle, Hanks, and Eastwood High Schools here. That was lifted by about 1:13, but definitely jarring for a lot of people in the area there. So yeah, weird stuff definitely going on in the community as of only today, but of course a lot of other conversations going on. Taking a little bit more statewide here for a second. Governor Greg Abbott sending out statements as of basically this afternoon about Operation Lone Star. Did have that question about it yesterday, which I'm more than happy to answer some of, but this is a pretty good summary, or at least major high points, I guess you could say a little bit better, coming up from the governor's office about the multi-agency efforts to secure the border and stop the smuggling of drugs, weapons, and people in Texas, claiming successes so far of more than 300,800 migrant apprehensions and more than 19,400 criminal arrests, with more than 16,800 felony charges reported from this so far. Also saying that DPS, as part of this program, has claimed over 335 million doses of fentanyl. Now, that's the number I'm a little bit dubious about. Not that I think it's inaccurate, but the way it's being portrayed there doses before it is not a preferred nomenclature. I'd like to know like actual like weight amounts here, because doses, I mean, we're talking about overdoses pretty constantly. How much are we actually talking about there? But also, of course, pointing to one issue that has definitely been coming up here in our area, at least debate-wise, recently, about the busing, saying that there have been more than 7,600 bused to Washington, D.C. since April, and over 1,900 to New York City, and first two buses now arriving in Chicago as of Wednesday this week. And, of course, that's where some of the local contention comes up here, as the city of El Paso, in some of the more recent circumstances and the current crisis, as they're describing it in our immediate area, talking about there being use of some of these programs here. So there's a lot of contention about that. So I'm very happy to say we are working with the city of El Paso and going to be bringing you a little bit more interviews directly on that, scheduled to have coming for you on Tuesday, our next interview segment, to be talking about what the city's response is, what the city managers have to say about that. And well, probably some of y'all questions here as well. And yeah, definitely some questions coming in about the president's speech last night. I had a full expectation about that, but RJ, I think referring to the bank robber there, saying Safari Man. Close, I would say more like what I previously would have called a well-equipped like roadway worker, but maybe my conception of that has been changing here as well. So, a lot of stuff to get into here as well. We also have Kathy Codry again commenting on the president's speech, also dropping those likes and reacts already over on the Facebook. Fred Marquez, Flaco Jimenez, and Ted Kors. We can get comments over there throughout both hours, but again, have those phone lines open and just filled up. So let's get ahead and dive into those. Again, if you're calling in before a break, essentially, you might get popped up live. So just be Johnny on the spot on the phone there, and we'll get with you here. So let's dive right into it. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Andrew from the West Side.
Hey there, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to comment on Biden's speech last night.
Yep, definitely gave it a listen here and was listening to it again a little bit before the show to make sure I heard a couple of things accurately here. Like, I had some assumptions about that. What then the president referred to himself as that bullhorn in the background here, and giving it another listen definitely confirmed some things about that.
Well, with that reddish background, it seemed more like Emperor Palpatine wanting to address the Galactic Empire.
Similar sentiments coming in again. Kathy talking about sending a background scene copied from the movie V for Vendetta. So I've been hearing a lot of very similar kind of allusions coming up today. I would go maybe a little bit more with to break canon here a little bit, the newer Star Wars series. I think episode 7, if I'm doing my math correctly. Yeah, the one where they had the Death Star 2.0, but I'm getting deep into the nerd weeds there. Please continue with your actual thought.
Well, no problem. So much. The only thing they didn't play was the Imperial March. But on a more serious note, the speech was a bunch of cliches, and it was divisive.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll say this and be perfectly frank about it. I'm not going to say I disagree with all of the sentiments, and there are many of them said. There have been things we've said before this point on that show here, and I'm still going to stand by them despite who else might be talking about them. But I will say that the initial point of the speech and this very interesting delineation that I guess isn't too surprising, but has not been necessarily exactly put that way about the MAGA Republicans, and that kind of, again, the delineation, that separation being made, at least rhetorically here, from the president was very interesting.
Well, it served as a distraction from what's going on in the country, such as this inflation, the unfettered immigration, high prices, and crime. Okay, it was 100% political, and it's an attempt to divide the GOP, in other words, cause fighting within the GOP, and not only MAGA Republicans, not only claim that MAGA Republicans are a threat, but the entire conservative movement, the entire GOP. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah, I mean, he did try to kind of couch it as not all Republicans, that kind of speech here, but I could, if I had rolled my eyes any harder, I would have seen my brain as it would have gone that far back, because, yeah, it doesn't really matter how you say, like, no, I don't mean all of them, but the ones that are the most vocal, present, etc., and they're the problem kind of thing here. I mean, there's no other way that could have been assumed to have been getting received here, let's be perfectly honest.
Well, that's true. Well, and what does not, inspire much confidence was his final departing words. "You have my word as a Biden." That one caused me gastric upset right there.
I did think it was an interesting, again, word choice at the point in time here, but I guess I'm not surprised at your response there either.
Well, I'm sure Comrade Raul and Frankie the Fool, I'm sure those two found it most gratifying and agreed 100%. But anyhow, I'll turn the mic over to you. I'm sure you have other callers who want to give their point.
Oh, absolutely. We definitely do. So appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one and a good weekend there.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Take care.
I mean, we got a lot we're going to be getting into here today. So tell you what, to gather up some more of those calls in line and some more of the comments here. I think they're coming in all right. We'll check here in just a bit here. But in any case, this is Talk El Paso. You are tuned in, and we are, of course, getting into that whole free-for-all Friday business that we do, where we are taking all the comments, all the calls, everything we can cram into 2 hours. Just if you're calling in, just keep it clean. Otherwise, we'll have to dump the call. Otherwise, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A couple of crashes on the I-10 this afternoon is slowing your commute. I-10 eastbound at Copia, a multi-vehicle crash there blocking the left lane with delays back to before Dallas with about 5-minute delays. I-10 westbound at Yarborough, that crash is blocking the right lane as well as the Yarborough on-ramp. Slow traffic with 14-minute delays. And an accident reported Gateway West at Hawkins. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Does it feel like liberty in America is slipping away as the government grows even more powerful? Who better to turn to than Ron Paul for answers? Make sure to listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Cecilia Abbott. Greg Abbott is my husband and our governor. Greg and I met at the University of Texas. We married soon after. I came to know what Greg Abbott was really made of when I saw how he responded to his accident. At just 26, a massive tree fell on him, paralyzing Greg for life. His recovery took months, but Greg never gave up. He often says challenges don't define our lives. Instead, it's how we respond to those challenges that defines us. Greg and I have known triumph as well. The joys of our marriage and adopting our daughter Audrey have shown me the depths of his love and commitment. Greg and Audrey have a great relationship. He's taught her how to deal with the trials of life. Hard work, perseverance, and family. Those values define Greg Abbott, and they guide him every day as governor of Texas.
Political ad paid for by Texans for Greg Abbott.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. Regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Every search you make, every click you take, they'll be watching you.
Are you tired of being tracked online? There's a simple solution. DuckDuckGo. It's an all-in-one privacy app with a built-in private search engine, web browser, one-click data clearing, email protection, and more, all for free. Download the app today and get the most comprehensive privacy protection with the push of a button. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. A lot of commentary coming in already, as is to be expected for that whole Friday thing that we do, taking y'all's comments and calls throughout both hours of the program, off to a brisk start here already today. If you want to get on the line there, that number to call again is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in over on the social media as well. Kathy Codry, Ion Graham, RJ, John Browston, Edgar Ortiz, Louis Pinato, and more. Dropping those likes and reacts again. Fred Marcus, Flaco Jimenez, and Ted Kors there. So we're just scratching the surface here. A lot of commentary about the tenor of the speech, the backgrounds specifically. Ion Grimm saying background was creepy, looked like he was somewhere in Russia, was calling comrades to arms, the most unpresidential speech given. It did not unite Americans. I'm not going to disagree with any particular point you're making there. Let me just put it that way, because seriously, as much as there were some sentiment I did find myself agreeing with on the whole, that we've talked about on this show previous to this. So no, I'm not just saying, yes, president said it for therefore good, but the whole, violent aspect of it. Yeah, find myself agreeing with that, but not necessarily because of who it's coming from. I do feel a lot of it will probably end up coming from who it's coming from versus the actual points of it here. It's amazing how things change quickly when it comes to political stances here, and the whole trying to kind of reconfigure of the defund the police thing. I'm still wondering if that's going to work with the further left parts of the base and of those in Congress already, but one of those time will tell here. But getting back to those phone lines again, that number to call if you want to get on there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Joe on the west side here with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, how you doing?
Doing right there. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I want to correct you because I have a little beef with you regarding a couple of days ago when I called.
Okay.
And I said, why do you let Raul and Frankie filibuster with false lies and you bring up the free speech card? I understand everybody has a right to free speech, okay?
Okay.
I'm a therapist. You sound like a therapist on your radio show. Whenever I'm doing group therapy at UBH or at Peak Hospital, and there's some delusional schizophrenic person just filibustering with delusional things, you got to hold them accountable when they bring up all this Trump, because there's been 86 accusations against Trump. And I'm no Trump fan. I'm a DeSantis fan, to be honest with you. So if you sit there and let them spread these lies without challenging them, that's my issue. My issue is not about free speech. That's number one. Number two is the school board here in El Paso is a joke. Trying to get a hold of any school board person, because there's no phone numbers printed. There's just emails. Okay, the teacher at Franklin's gone. I met with all the administrators at the North Stanton at the administration building early yesterday morning, and I also presented them great ideals because the schools here in El Paso, number one, with their poor security, and like Franklin, where my son goes to high school, with their open doors everywhere, with their lack of a good social emotional guidance program. They're just ripe for another Uvalde. I hate to say it, but it's just true. I did talk to Miss Macias, one of the directors up there, and she took down my ideals of things to do. But the biggest problem with this district is the nepotism, their hiring process, and their lack of discouragement of parental involvement. But I just want to let you know, you got to hold Raul and Frankie and these other delusional liberals accountable, because you're wasting precious airtime with them to spread their false lies and rumors. And Mark Twain would tell you about a lie and how it spreads way faster than the truth.
Don't just necessarily disagree with on that point here, but to go back to the specific phrase you used there was enabling of them here. And that's mostly, I guess, what I was taking particular issue with here. We've also had calls from others in the audience, whatever we've made, even allusions. I make it perfectly clear. We are nowhere near being able to be a fact-checking organization. If I had 8 of me over here doing this kind of thing, we still wouldn't be able to get to any of that. So we make no illusions, no attempts to pretend that that's something that's in our core competency here. But still, the major things we try to do is have people say their piece. And the major other point of the way this is, I know we do things a bit differently than other radio shows, even on this station or in general, but people bring up ideas, bring up their perspectives on it, and then other people's ability to respond to it. And it may not be totally clear here, but let's just say we don't generally allow anyone unrestricted airtime on here. I tend to find a good point to jump in if necessary. But again, I will fully admit and freely admit that if I have a problem or foible on this show is that maybe I let people go on a little bit too long. But to your point about the school boards here, holding them accountable has been a very difficult thing. Honestly, the biggest change I've ever really seen from someone and doing something from the school board. I mean, yes, fully encourage people to go to meetings here and, speak their piece, try to achieve their goals here. But it's not until someone ends up on school board that it really does it here. Again, we have a weird strategy for how we maintain our school infrastructure when it comes to the administration anyway, and that these are all unpaid positions. So it's the only people that really have their own personal interest, personal care, personal axe to grind that end up actually going for these positions here. So that's why one of the other things is that we've really focused on have been these school board elections, because as much as, sure, going to the meetings, I do think that there is a use to it. It doesn't seem to be the most useful things people can do kind of in public life when it comes to school boards.
Well, I'm thinking about running, but I'm going to need some volunteers for STAR's organization. As far as winning the debate and debating any educational issue, I spent my whole life helping kids, and I still help kids, not only the oppression and the poor liberal area schools around here. I have no problem winning the debates and presenting the facts and issues. I just need a campaign manager, and I'm willing to go door to door and do all the PTO meetings and go to all the debates. I think I can get the 2,600 votes necessary to win my district here I'm in Franklin High School District, but there's just no accountability, and that's not just this district. I reached out to school board members in every school district in Donna Ana and El Paso County, with the exception of Cantillo. I never have problems with that district, but every other district here is they're just primitive, and their lack of parental involvement, their retaliations against parents who try to speak out. The issues are long and hard. I could talk to you about for 2 hours, but basically it's sad because there's no parental representation in this whole area as far as when it comes to the school district. And my rep here is just a joke, and they told me to reach out to the main board member. He's not returning emails. It's bad. They're supposed to be our voice. It's supposed to be a local education agency ran by the parents. But basically, we just got a bunch of people who rubber stamp whatever the superintendent tells them to do, and it's a corrupt game. The teachers union, teachers vote for them in, and we need to speak up as parents. So, and if you can repeat when the school board meeting is, because the district told me a different date. You said I think the 28th later on when I hung up with you last time.
Yeah, just let me ask you real quick, which district were you talking about here? Because I did see one. So EPISD?
Yeah.
So yeah, the one that they have listed on their website, they do have a board of trustee meetings happening at the let me get the location for you right here. So I'm not the Charles. It's I think it's a bond advisory committee. It's being held at Charles Q. Murphy, 499 Cabaret, El Paso, Texas. Here, and that one's on the 28th. That's the only one. Next one they have listed here. There was one. I want to say I'm trying to pull it up here in front of me. For I believe it's SISD that is on the 20th here of September. Yes, SISD has one on the 20th here.
They told me the 20th. That's another thing. Other cities and districts, they posted on the website for the whole year. Here it's not here. I'm trying to get on the agenda to address issues that are very important to the parents here, such as school safety, parental involvement, just basic ideals to improve the quality of education here. Another example is we could all agree that our college education was much better than our high school education. And I think one of the big reasons there is the evaluation system they give teachers. It's just principals and assistant principals evaluate the teachers. They need to do what they do in college. They need to give a evaluation by the students and the parents, like you got at the end of the semester in college. That would improve things too. When I was a school counselor in Houston, I had a parental advisory committee meeting every month. The teachers call it a bitch session, but basically the parents went in there and they tried to give their ideals to improve the school. If a parent was filibustering it, I would say, wait, Miss Gonzalez or whoever, we'll talk about this issue later if it's an individual issue with the teacher. But they discourage parental involvement here, and that's sad because they don't realize that when a kid gets home and hears his mom or dad talking bad about the school, that's empowering that kid to shut down, not try. And it's like when parents are divorced and the parents talk about each other in front of their children. It's not good. It's hurting the school performance here in El Paso.
Don't disagree with you on any particular point there. And again, let me make it perfectly clear. When I bring up the school board the way it is, this is not me saying, so if you want to do anything, if you're not running for school board, you're useless. I'm just saying, I think the unfortunate situation is that the most impact that is had, or the most change we ever really see, and even then, the level that it really is at, is when someone ends up on the school board here. I do not believe it should be that way, but I think that, again, certain reflection and realization of reality is what's needed here. So that being the way it is, probably shouldn't be, but I can't see it changing without someone, unfortunately, ending up on the school board here. So I'm not putting that on you by no means, or anyone else that's listening here saying you're not running for school board. Yeah.
I'm first thinking about running, but I'd be a great candidate. I'm very dynamic. I established rapport. I actually ran for city council in Houston back in 2003 in a Hispanic district with 7 other candidates, with the intention of pointing out the corruption of my current councilman, who literally called me up and cussed me out after I harassed his intern for 2 months regarding the poor quality of my streets. And, my friend, who was very wealthy and had a Corvette dealership, he didn't like this councilman either, so he paid the $5,000 filing fee. And I ran with no money, no budget, against people with $500,000 budgets. But the debates out rock and rolled. And I had people run up to me wanting to give me money and worshiping me like I was some type of god. I'm like, look, I'm basically just here to expose the corruption of Councilman Longoria, who was like a 8-time incumbent. And no matter what question they asked me, I brought it back to the corruption of him and my street. And I ended up getting 4th in a field of 8 with no budget, no treasurer, no signs, no nothing, while the candidates that were in the runoff, one is Adrian Garcia, who went on to be sheriff, and now he's a county commissioner in Harris County, the biggest county in the state. But anyway, they're both fighting for my endorsement. I would rock and roll. If anybody else there wants to help me in the school board, just type on the message board on Facebook. I need somebody to be a treasurer and a secretary to organize things. I think I can get the 2,500 votes, but this election's in May. I got to start doing things like right away, because I'm going to start hitting the PTO meetings and meeting the parents and shaking hands right away. I went to the Freedom Works conference they had last week at El Paso Community College, and they taught us some tricks of the trade about how to run school boards. But we got to get our schools back. They're indoctrination camps. You can find books about how to give oral sex or gay sex, yada, 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 but you can't find a Quran or a Hebrew Bible or a Christian Bible. It's just one-sided indoctrination, and we need to get off our ASSs and start taking back our schools. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. And just kind of as a related note, since you mentioned the Franklin area, not sure if you reside in that. Obviously nearby, have kids go there, but if you're close enough to actually be in the running district for there, because there has been an announcement that the current representative for the high school, on the school board anyway, Freddie Cleo Avalos, is going to be running for city council. So maybe a vacancy there. In any case, tell you what, let's get back on the clock here and get back to the calls here in just a second. Again, you are tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Coming back after this break with more of the comments. We got a few of them come in here as well. More of the calls. We'll follow up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. One of UTEP's largest and oldest traditions is set to take place today. I'm talking about Minor Palooza. UTEP is planning for a large crowd this evening. The university expects 25 to 30,000 people to attend the annual event. Mallory Bayan is the Associate Director of UTEP Student Engagement and Leadership Center. She says that Minor Palooza features food, games, live entertainment, and a whole lot of fun. The lineup for this year's events include Mariachi Rock Revolution and Crystal Poppin'. Minor Palooza is a free event that is open to the entire El Paso community. We have more information on the celebration on our website. And while you're there, remember, you can stay up to date with what's happening in our area by signing up for our CBS 4 newsletter. It's easy and it's free, and we'll send it straight on over to your inbox. Just head to cbs4local.com/signups to get started. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An earlier crash on I-10 westbound at Yarborough still blocking the right lane and causing a backup to before Penndale. Right now, there's 17-minute delays on the I-10 westbound from the Loop to the 54 Patriot. I-10 eastbound at Copia, that earlier crash has been cleared off to the left. 54 Patriot southbound at the I-10 interchange ramp is blocked. Heavy congestion. And a crash reported Pelicano westbound at Pullman Drive. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a cloudy and wet period with on and off rain, we'll start to see brighter and drier conditions moving back in. Expect a partly cloudy to mostly cloudy sky tonight with a few spotty showers area-wide. Temperatures will also be a bit cooler overnight as they drop into the middle 60s. Coming up tonight, we'll take a look at your holiday weekend forecast, plus when we could see a slight uptick in our storm activity. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
The Labor Day event from Dell Technologies is here. And summer with up to $300 off the XPS with 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Upgrade by calling 877-ASK-DELL.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina serves the old Griggs Mexican food recipes in a new location at 6761 Donovan Drive. Enjoy great New Mexican food with cold beer and the one and only margarita from the cantina. The managers and cooks from the original Griggs restaurant serve tacos, combination plates, and sopapillas. Get the best Mexican food in the valley at Pepe's New Mexican Restaurant and Cantina, 6761 Donovan, near Loop 375. Call 877-2152.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
If you like good stories that aren't woke, then listen to Red Pilled America on the free iHeartRadio app. You won't regret it. We tell the stories you want to hear, and changing hearts and minds in the process. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, moving briskly through this Free-for-All Friday. That's this time of the week when we are taking on all of the comments and calls that we can squeeze into 2 hours of the show. Never quite as many as you'd expect because, yeah, we do tend to go in depth on a couple of things here. But if you want to get on any of those ways here, again, whether it be on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or, again, the social media pages that we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Lot of interesting conversation going on there, including Flaco Jimenez bringing up the idea of RDS, Raul Derangement Syndrome. Fred Marquez agreeing with the previous caller as well. Stephen Christopher talking a little bit earlier about the whole MAGA Republicans kind of thing there. I think it'll be a comment a little bit longer than can show up on screen here. But again, you can see all of them for yourselves here on the various channels here. So even if we don't pop it up, they're out there and free for y'all to see, as long as you can do so safely, of course, here. Ion Grimm bringing up an interesting point here, saying, personal opinion, this show tries to walk the middle ground, especially concerning politics. Therefore, it can be frustrating to those who want to hear Andrew, again, phrasing, quoting there, take a firm stand, left or right on a specific issue. Due to the format, people can rant for issues that seem very extreme, left or right, unjust, illogically, or just plain unbelievable. I'm going to choose to take that as constructive criticism, and I'm assuming that's how you meant it there. In any case, because, yeah, it's not necessarily that I'm trying to do the whole kumbaya, can't we all just get along kind of thing here, because also, in my personal opinion, that never really works out. And anyone who's like claiming I'm a uniter, I'm bringing people together, well, I'm just going to point ever so slightly at that speech from last night at how those kind of efforts work out. There's always a, but you should agree with me kind of thing underlying there. I guess if there's anything that's particularly markedly different, again, this show is not a response to anything else in our air, not meant to counter, attack, undermine any of those things, really anything else, but rather just do something entirely different that I think we need a little bit more of here if I'm going to take a stand on. And the idea of actually being able to have a debate and discussion here. And again, yeah, I definitely have foibles as we manage some of these things, but we do our best to get through it here. So I take the point as it comes to it, as I hope it's intended here. But in case, let's go back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Jerry on the west side here with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for taking my call and let me opine, Andrew.
Certainly.
Appreciate it. Okay, I made a prediction yesterday that the president would cover three things. One of them was attacking basically our civil liberties with the rights that we have according to the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. The second one was that he would divide us or attempt to divide us. And the third one was that he would try to demonize people that supported Donald Trump. In your opinion, how did I do?
Yeah, definitely on that last one here. I guess maybe I was more too focused on the bullhorn guy and most of the other points here, but definitely solid on the first point because that one was pretty much the entire first part of the speech. Pretty obviously, again, that whole delineation or attempted delineation anyway of MAGA Republicans as being both the most problematic and separate part of the party. Again, I'm not quite sure that that's going to fly here. And if there was an expectation that it would, I'd be very curious to know what other expectation that person has. But on the other points there about civil liberties, I guess maybe not so much overt if you're concerned about those kind of things, but I guess I could see a lot of the subtext being brought there on the idea of no violence, supporting police, those kind of things that the way it's being couched that way is maybe leading towards there. And then what was your first point again?
Okay, the first one was that he would try to take away our civil liberties.
Right? Oh, okay. So then the second one.
And Kane, the second one is he'd divide us. And the third one was he would blame basically Republicans, especially the MAGA people that supported Donald Trump, for all our woes, making them the enemy, blaming them.
So I would say overall pretty well. If it was a lottery ticket, I would have accused you of cheating.
Okay. Another question. Who said this? It's my right to question and to people in authority when I disagree with them.
Don't know that quote offhand here, even if I find myself agreeing with it for a decent amount here.
Hillary Rodham Clinton, 2016. So she said that when people were calling her unpatriotic and questioning things, and she come on TV and said that it's my right to question the authority of the current authorities, what's going on when I disagree with them, and it's a patriotic thing to do. So when President Trump questioned the outcome of the election, that was his right also. Also, there was other people that questioned the outcomes of other elections. 2004, John Kerry. 2000, the Vice President Al Gore. All questioned the outcome of the election. And they all had people in the House of Representatives and the Senate that they wanted to change the outcome of the election. In both 2000, 2004, and including Hillary Clinton. She also wanted to change the outcome of the election in 2016. So changing the outcome of the election is not something solely pointed at Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump. That's something that the other party's done for a long time. So when people get up there and they say it's a threat to our democracy, was it a threat to our democracy when Al Gore did it? Was it a threat to our democracy when John Kerry did it? Remember the night of his long knives, he called it? You didn't bring out your long knives? And was it a threat to our democracy when Hillary Rodham Clinton did it in 2016? Ask yourself that, audience. Okay, one more thing.
Sure.
This was a speech supposed to be about the soul of America.
Mhm.
There was another individual that did a speech to a lot of clergy at the time, and he said, it is not your responsibility to worry about the soul of this nation. That's my responsibility, and I'm going to take care of that. That was in 1936 by a man named Adolf Hitler. You have a good day, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks.
Appreciate you listening to me.
Absolutely. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there. I mean, again, so the whole firmness of my statements here coming up here, which I guess is is apropos as any point to be brought up here. One thing I do feel pretty firmly about that, I don't really care who it comes from. If it's a threat to democracy and a threat to the country, and the order of it is, I don't really care who's saying it. So to the previous ones you were bringing up there about was it a threat to it, then yeah, I would say so. Now, of course, there can be varying degrees of threat, and there are definitely debates being had about that and will probably be held for just about forever. But that's where, again, I find some of my firmness of policies coming from is I don't really care who's saying it. Just like if you get me to technically agree with Hillary Rodham Clinton in there, which is not something that happens terrifically often, but right or wrong, if it's being said, no matter who's saying it, it could still be right. I mean, and whole, Blue York and watch twice a day kind of things here. But seriously, if we're talking about this, I've been pretty clear about this in the past. The idea of if it's wrong when someone else does it, but right when your side does it, it's probably still wrong, or at the very least, when it comes to the federal government, a power that should not exist here. Let's squeeze in another call or two here before we hit that next break here. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Full up again at the moment. Probably be pretty full today. So as a hint for anyone who hasn't quite figured it out just yet, if you call right after one call is ended, you'll probably have a better opportunity than usual here. Otherwise, persistence and insistence is about the only thing that separates those that make it through than not. We do have Abel over in Central on the line with us here right now. Abel, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I just want to. This goes to the mega Republicans. They don't like when when people protest on their conventions, and they also sometimes they are disruptors themselves. But I got to tell you one thing. Let me remind them about 1984 when some guy from Dallas, Texas, he was a white man. He was a communist. He said so himself. He disrupted the Republican convention in Dallas, Texas. He burned the American flag, and his sentence was not very long. He was let go, I guess, about a year later. And then another thing, I remember back in 1972 when Tricky Dick, and they said, I don't know, I heard stories that he used to like to smoke weed too, So don't just say that Clinton, be fair about when Tricky Dick was president. There were some Vietnam veterans that went to protest the Republican convention, and they went in and they protested, and they were calling the United States. Most of them were disabled, and they had a big. The convention was held in Miami. They had a big, incident. With the cops over there outside. Outside Miami. So they like to also disrupt functions sometimes, but they don't like it when people do it to them. Man, let's be fair about it, okay? Especially to your last caller. There's I'm an independent, okay? So that's all I have to call. Have a good day.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one there too. I think we lost him there. If you're referring to Gregory Johnson, which did end up being the Supreme Court case on the issue there. The 1984 Republican National Convention, one I did end up studying during my time in college as well. A very interesting situation about speech being more than just the literal words uttered or written, but being symbolic acts as well. Pretty important in the long run here, and if some people may disagree with a particular act of it. And again, since it just keeps coming up and it's going to be stuck in my brain here for a minute, Ion Graham pointing out that she tries to call in as well. And that wasn't criticism. Again, I took it kind of couch as constructive criticism. Don't worry here. And I don't take many things personally. But what I will say is something that I find myself, regardless of where it comes from, very opposed to is the infringement on civil liberties, whatever it may be. The right to protest, again, First Amendment, redress the government for wrongs, those kind of things is incredibly important. And I don't care who's doing it or for what they're doing it, as long as they're not saying that the protest involves bashing in my head or anything along those lines, then pretty much it's going to be, yeah, that is the price of living in the country and the society we do. Now, I will draw a distinction between protest and protesting and rioting, destruction, looting, those kind of things here. There may be an argument that they fall along a spectrum, but there's very clearly a delineation between those two things in my mind here, and those that cross the line should absolutely 100% be held accountable here. James Holmes also responding to that caller here, saying, calling it confused. And Stephen Christopher bringing up the, I think kind of the point I was getting at there, the idea of mostly peaceful here. In any case, we're definitely due for that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we will get to more of the calls, more of the comments, more of everything we're doing on this. Again, very busy Friday, so if you want to get on the line, follow up again, but that number to call is, if you want to squeeze in, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
That earlier crash, I-10 westbound at Yarborough exit, is cleared, but there's still a backup from the Loop to 54 Patriot. It's a 14-minute stop-and-go delay. Montana Avenue eastbound at Joe Battle, an accident reported. Right interchange lane is blocked on the 54 southbound at the I-10, and Pelicano westbound at Pullman Drive, an accident reported there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything you need for school at prices that won't hold you back. Right now, Staples comp books and number 2 pencils are just 50 cents. And 2-pocket paper folders are just 25 cents each. In-store only, offer ends 9/3, limit 30. Don't send your kids back to school, send them forward at Staples.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
From rising crime, rising costs, and shortages of essential goods, New Mexico's hard-working families are hurting. Congresswoman Yvette Harrell is working with local leaders and local law enforcement to care for our communities and keep all New Mexico families safe. Last year, Yvette Harrell introduced the Power Act, legislation designed to increase U.S. fuel production and restore America's energy independence by blocking Biden from banning energy leases on federal lands without congressional approval. Congresswoman Harrell put New Mexico families first by introducing the PAUSE Act, keeping Title 42 in place to protect vulnerable border communities. And with crime on the rise, Harrell gave law enforcement the tools they need to catch dangerous criminals and work to return control to local police departments, not the federal government. For more information on Congresswoman Yvette Harrell's efforts to keep New Mexico families safe and secure, visit harrell.house.gov. Paid for with official funds from the Office of Yvette Harrell.
Samuel Colt was an American inventor, industrialist, and businessman who brought us the gun that won the West, the revolver. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Keep cool, save money and energy by closing blinds and curtains to block heat.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, getting pretty quick, closely up to that start of the next hour here, but we'll squeeze in what we can here. Don't worry, we got another whole hour to come here on the program as we do that Friday thing we do with your comments and calls on tap throughout all of the show, and we do mean all, as much as we can get to. Anyway, a lot of comments coming in online. Louis Pinato, Ion Grimm, Kathy Codry, Edgar Ortiz, Stephen Christopher, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, and dropping those likes and reacts. Let's just put it that way. Fred Marquez, don't want to miss that one, and Flaco Jimenez dropping those reacts. James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Fred Marquez, Flaco Jimenez, and Ted Kors here. Edgar Ortiz bringing up a point here, saying on a more current and local note, unfortunately, I believe we have forgotten the importance of unity, and with the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks upon this great country, we need the unity we showed on 9/12. That needs to come back. I hope it doesn't take another attack to bring us together. Unfortunately, it has been a factor throughout human history that the best uniting thing is often an outside force here, because as much as I was brought up and grew up looking at history to believe that the country was united as it went into World War II, there were a lot of internal divisions that were even being looked at that point in time. A lot of things that have been overcome here, but I mean, it was definitely very much a factor of unity during that point. So I hope you're right as well, but I'm not quite sure we're there as a country, a society, a civilization, or even a species, but only time will tell there. There's at least one more call here. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
This is outrageous. I just heard that awful Andrew calling me a fool. Hey, fool, you're the fool. I am a learned liberal. I am not a cerebrally corrupt conservative kook insurrectionist seditionist who has a big fat rubber blow-up doll of your boy Donnie Doton with his tiny little hands and tiny other little stuff. I want to just say that. Come up with a different handle other than fool. Anyway, now, I find this very interesting. The FBI conducted a search, a raid, or so whatever, right? Over this oligarch guy that's big buddies with Putin. Right after they got all of these top secret stuff. Now, I find this kind of interesting that the FBI would immediately go over to this oligarch guy with big buddies, Putin, Donnie Dotar's big buddy. I wonder what that means, you know? I mean, it kind of like piques your interest on that. What do you think?
I mean, talking about collusion and all those kind of things is definitely kept coming up here. But let me just say this. I mean, as much as, yes, I have often and been very sincere, I mean, I don't just say it to dispense with the issue, wanted to see full investigation into these kind of things. I mean, as much as anything that happened during the term of office in that circumstance here is kind of a moot point, because, I mean, the remedy for there is removal from office, and already being removed from office, what could actually happen to it here. Would still like to see some getting to the bottom of, even if, again, the investigations that had happened so far. And I mean, I think that the way it was gone about is kind of forever, at least in a lot of public consciousness, tainted to a large degree, a la Steele dossier. Let me just say this. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there was obviously a level of, I'm not going to say affection, but level of more confidence. I mean, the way Donald Trump handled most things, both in his personal life and also as an elected official, was from a very much standpoint of, CEO, boss, businessman in charge kind of thing here. So I'm not surprised. It was never a particular surprise to me that he was drawn to those that echoed a similar kind of thing within their governmental sentiments, even if that is not necessarily totally compatible with the way, it has previously worked in the United States.
Well, I hear what you're saying. Well, like I said, I love what you're saying. First off, this is Friday. I hate Friday. It's bittersweet because the end of the week, and I got to wait all the way to Monday before you come back on. So you have a nice weekend. But it really annoys me that this is the end of the week.
Well, we'll be back next week. So thanks for the point in the call. Have a good one.
All right.
All right, got to take that break now, hit the top of the hour, and then we're going to cut back to the calls on more. So stay tuned, more Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690
I-10 westbound at Yarborough, that earlier crash has cleared. All lanes are back open. There's still some slowing, 12-minute delays from the Loop to the 54 Patriot going westbound on the 10. A couple of lanes blocked by some vehicles in the roadway. Those are just being moved off to the side. All lanes open there. And road construction has the left lane closed both east and westbound from Vinton to Red on the I-10. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Here at iHeartMedia, we have audio covered. Digital, podcasting, radio, and influencers, all in one place to help your company be heard. Take advantage of all things sound and visit iHeartAdvertising.com or call 844-BUY-RADIO. Radio is effective. Podcast listenership is exploding. Take advantage right now and get your business in front of our audience today by visiting iHeartAdvertising.com.
News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The TSA is offering advice to those traveling through airport security this holiday weekend. TSA spokesperson Lisa Farbstein says travelers should arrive at least 90 minutes ahead of their scheduled flight time. She added that TSA crews are fully staffed and ready to keep people moving through security, but she's cautioning passengers to pack their patience in case of flight delays. The former Attorney General under President Trump isn't holding back his thoughts on the investigation involving classified materials at Trump's Florida property.
People say this was unprecedented. Well, it's also unprecedented for a president to take all this classified information and put him in a country club.
Bill Barr said the feds likely have good evidence to take things to the point where they are now. Serena Williams is looking to extend her stay at the U.S. Open tonight. The tournament in New York figures to be the last for the 40-year-old Williams, who's expected to retire afterwards. The market is wrapping up a week of losses with another day in the red. All three major indexes lost 3% or more for the week. One expert said the market is still figuring out what inflation and the job market balancing will mean for the economy. The Coast Guard is investigating a migrant smuggling operation in the Florida Keys.
Officials say they rescued 20 migrants from the water after their boat capsized near Isla Morada earlier this morning. 3 people managed to make it to land, while 1 person is possibly missing. It's unclear where the migrants originated from, but authorities say they'll be sent back to their homelands. This group will be added to the thousands of others who have been intercepted near the Florida coast this year. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Will Smith is working on his first project since the infamous Oscar slap. After his controversial move at this year's ceremony, the actor was spotted on set in Ecuador. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Georgia is experiencing an influx of new voters ahead of the November midterm elections. More from Liz Kennedy.
The state's registration list gained more than 1.5 million people over the past 4 years. That's a 20% increase since the last time residents cast a ballot for Georgia's next governor. The AJC reports those who recently registered come from groups that typically support more Democratic candidates. People will decide this fall if they want to re-elect Republican Governor Brian Kemp or choose challenger Democrat Stacey Abrams. And then there's the national race between Georgia's Democratic U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker.
Pennsylvania's Republican candidate for governor is suing the House Select Committee investigating the Capitol riot. State Senator and former U.S. Army Colonel Doug Mastriano is challenging the committee's authority to do compelled depositions under current House rules. The suit filed yesterday names the committee, its 9 members, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as defendants. This Saturday across the country, you can go to the movies for $3. Mark Mayfield explains.
The nationwide discount is good in more than 3,000 theaters. Industry folks say movie attendance hasn't bounced back yet since the pandemic hit, and September the 3rd is the day to celebrate how movies are meant to be seen on the big screen. Major chains like AMC and Regal are ready, plus many more. You can find a theater near you on the National Cinema Day website. I'm Mark Mayfield.
A Russian taxi app is blaming hackers for causing a gridlock in downtown Moscow. Yandex Taxi, similar to Uber, allowing users to order cabs to their location, said it was targeted Thursday morning. Hackers reportedly sent hundreds of drivers to the same Moscow address, creating huge traffic jams at the center of the city. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword festival to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's festival to 200-200.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
What does the political landscape look like heading into the midterm elections? We're going to ask Robert Kahali of the Trafalgar Group, who has a history of getting things right. Don't miss The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
New on Curiosity Street, Louis B. Mayer, Jack Warner, William Fox. Hollywood was the city of dreams, but the beginnings were a nightmare.
You will never work in this town again!
It's Titans, the rise of Hollywood. And Merapi, one of the world's most active volcanoes. Can we better predict its next deadly eruption? A new expedition hunts for life-saving answers on exploring the volcano. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
News never stops, and now you never have to take a break from the station that brings you the news. Download the free iHeartRadio app and listen to any station, anytime, all for free. Want even more, but don't want to pay? Good, we've got that. Discover podcasts from your favorite radio hosts, podcasts that take you further into the story, podcasts that give you stories you never knew existed. Always free. Don't pay for the news you want and the stations you love. Download the free iHeartRadio app today. Available now in the App Store.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
we welcome open-minded individuals
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
with open arms
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
for open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you very much for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Lot of stuff we're talking about here today, but that's kind of what we do today. Free for All Friday is what we call it, and that means that we are taking on all the comments, all the calls, all the response from y'all on all the topics that we can squeeze into 2 hours of the show, which is never quite enough, but hey, we do the best with what we were given. And so in this case, we are giving out that phone number again. The number to call there is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. If you want to add your 2 cents that way on, again, any subject, just keep it clean here. A lot of conversation. We're including Juan Anzuras asking if he missed one of our other callers there. I do not believe you have, but the day is young, night is young, afternoon is young. That's not a phrase. Maria Coleman bringing up another serious issue and a local one with the situation with the El Paso DA may be the tip of the iceberg. People in local government here had to be aware cases were not going forward, but they chose to remain silent to protect their jobs. Some of the arresting officers may have left or retired. I think the lack of police officers was not going to be a part of the discussion here. That's an interesting point here. That connection hasn't really necessarily been made. I will be very curious to see if that is necessarily a part of it, because lefts, maybe, if they're like unavailable in the area anymore and can't come back for a trial, though I would imagine they could still be called as a witness. Retired, maybe a kind of similar level of issue, I guess. But as long as they're not deceased, essentially, I guess they could still be called. I don't think them being still an officer or not has much impact on their ability to testify. But also, I guess that's not something I've ever had legal experience. I'm not a lawyer, but I've settled a lot of legal cases and such, and not one I've never necessarily seen come up as issue here. Stephen Christopher taking issue with some of our previous callers as well, saying doesn't call conservatives stupid with the spelling STOOPID. I take the inflection that you're getting there from it on nearly every call here. And that's why, as much as, sure, I am not a particular fan of political name calling, I think that horse left the barn probably about, I'm going to call it like the early 1800s, if probably not before. probably like 1776 or like 1780, once the Articles of Confederation were done with, is when that political horse left the barn. But in any case, some more calls coming in here, including Eric von Holstein Rathlau saying, I'm not the only one who remembers a certain historical political figure who destroyed an entire nation while accusing another group of people of destroying the nation. Honestly, I know that I'm pretty sure I know who you're referring to and why you're doing it in such an aphorism there. But I'm also going to say that you're going to have to be more specific, because there's probably one that major comes to mind, but a true study of history shows that there's a whole lot more that have done that there. Let's just say Kulaks come to mind, or Kulaks come to mind there as another one. In any case, here, a lot of comments and a lot of other commentary coming in there. Again, dropping those likes and reacts, we appreciate. James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Fred Marcus, Flaco Jimenez, and Ted Gorse. You don't have to, you don't want to, but not necessarily that you agree with what is being talked about at the moment, but that you like the ability to do so is what we take that as. In any case, let's go back to those phone lines again. The number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Danny on the east side here with us right now. Danny, thanks for joining us.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Doing right
Listen,
there.
I just wanted to bring a couple of points so that our listeners can understand a little bit more than being mad at each other.
Fair enough.
And that is the fact that our founding fathers sat down and wrote the Constitution. They came up with something that was really inspired by God. I'll tell you why. Because that Constitution followed what we call agency, the agency that God gave us to do, to unite, to follow, to find happiness. And within that, our Constitution was formed. So we have a republic like nothing ever before. And within our republic, we have the right to fight amongst each other or discuss things in a good manner. For instance, slavery. We tried to get rid of slavery. They couldn't do it because if they did at that time, the southern states would have left the Union and it would have dissolved.
Absolutely.
So the slavery stayed there until we fought a civil war over that. So that blacks would be free. Then Jim Crow and all that stuff happened. But the idea kept going. And so we have people like Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, all those guys that fought for individual freedoms so that we could all be the same. But within that, in the words of Martin Luther King, he said that for us to look at each other the same and to look at and give everybody the ability to follow their dreams, how they saw fit. And that's very important because I don't mind the flaming liberals, and what they say. That's what they actually believe in. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So that's their point of view, and we should respect that. And just like we have our point of view, I'm to the right. I don't take that as that. I used to be a liberal, and if I lived in Latin America, I would definitely be a liberal because of government, the oligarchy, and all that stuff that goes on over there. But here we have a different kind of a government, and it's important for us to realize that. The only problem we have is that right now our country is so divided, because of our political views. And for instance, last night, Biden having 2 Marines behind him, and what he said about the other day, you have a gun, you need at least an F-15 to fight it. That kind of talk is really provocative, and it's uncalled for, and it was not necessary. But we also realize that that's the guy is 80 years old and probably doesn't even know what he's saying, and he's just reading off whatever they gave him. So it's important for us right now to be cool, let them do whatever it is that they want, and we still have a vote. We still have a vote coming up in a couple of 74 days, 73 days, whatever it is.
Yeah, give or take.
There we can say our piece, and that's very important. But you know what? As far as those guys, what they say and what they believe in, that's fine. I have a cousin like that. You can't discuss it because the guy was will call me a demagogue and I don't know what else. And so I just don't talk to them about politics, and we get along fine. He sends me stuff from history or science, and we talk about that. And maybe that's what we should do. But for us not to respect each other's point of view, bad deal. Bad deal. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
No, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there, and have a happy Labor Day weekend.
You too.
I mean, talking about these things and the way we do them is important. Let me just say that part of the reason we do what we do, I know we're pulling back the curtain pretty far back here, not necessarily making this like an inside baseball kind of show here, but I have long seen what's gone on online and the fact that we have these increasing echo chambers because social media companies, they want you to be the most engaged possible. So they want to show you what you'll react the most to and show you as little as possible of what you don't like that would remove interaction. So it is geared towards the whole idea of it being that, okay, you'll only hear from the people that you'll tend to agree with. Because, again, I'm weird in a variety of ways, and I fully, understand this, that I go and seek out viewpoints I disagree with, because it's not enough for me to say, I don't get why those people say what they do for most things. Like, I still don't get, like, most criminal activity. I'll say that as much as I've tried to, but I then try to say, okay, I'm taking from the standpoint of assuming not that everyone that disagrees with me is crazy, but that maybe there is a legitimate point there. It's quite an exercise in growing up, basically, to understand that there are people out there that disagree with you for reasons other than they're bad or evil. There are many, many different viewpoints out there, but the fact that we've lost kind of that ability to have that discussion here, by no means do you have to go out and seek it out for yourself or, inundate yourself. At a certain point, you do have to do what's right for your mind here. And also, to answer the question about, we have 66 days left until Election Day. Just want to make that point here. But also, on the idea of division and not accepting other people's idea, again, it is a wise man indeed that can entertain an idea without accepting it here. And I will disagree with you slightly on the idea of doing whatever they want. I'm not on board with that of any administration, particularly this one, of doing whatever they want, and we'll just hold all no so they're done with it because, no. But for the most part, holding them accountable, having the debate on it, we have seen changes that happen at the very least locally when enough people have said, what the hell? Or in maybe nicer terms, or in meaner terms, some kind. So that ability to actually come out and say the things that are important to you is one of those. It's the First Amendment for a reason, because, it's not technically an order of importance, but the first one definitely makes a statement about what this country is and what it's supposed to be when it came to those amendments to the Constitution, much like the first statement of the Constitution of we the people. Because without that, you've lost so many of your values and points and things to be fought for here, and you start drifting off. And I very much do believe, as you were kind of talking about there, to form a more perfect union, the pursuit of it will be endless. We will never be a perfect country, as anything on this realm of existence, this plane, can ever be considered perfect. We will never achieve that, but we can always and should forever strive to achieve it as much as possible here. More comments coming in there, but tell you what, let's get to one more quick call before we hit that next break here. We do have John in Central on the line here with us right now. John, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew. I'd like to comment on Biden's nationwide speech last night. I think it was labeled as Soul of the Nation. Is that correct?
That was essentially the major topic, yeah.
Okay. This will tie in good with a comment. I didn't watch it. I was tuned into the U.S. Open, so I can't comment on the substance, but I'd like to comment on the visual. Okay. Let me see here. I caught some sound bites throughout the day and some visual clips of it, so I do know what I remember on the first. Let me see, when he stepped up to the podium. The lights went down and a real gloom and doom scene came up. Okay, have you seen that already?
Yep. So I watched the video and I just went ahead and pulled up some of the pictures here, and particularly some of the pictures that made it the way into newspapers and on some of the online front pages today. I get they were trying to do the whole red and blue thing in front of there, but most of them cropped enough there, showing again, as the previous caller mentioned, the two Marines and the deep red background is.
Yeah.
Well, it's a hell of a staging choice, I'll say that.
Yes. Okay. This is my point. If somebody was just listening or just watching and had the sound turned down and watched the whole speech, I think that they would have gotten this impression. Now, I'm going to introduce a term in Spanish. It's not a bad word. It's not a
Okay.
derogatory, I think you call it. Okay. It does come from Mexico, down in the Durango, Gomez Palacios area, where my grandfather is from.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was from there. Okay. Whenever a little boy or a little girl are being bad, the mom or dad say, you know, if you don't behave, el chamuco is going to get you. Have you ever heard that term in Spanish? El
Not
chamuco.
chamuco. Not that one here.
Okay. That's what it looked like to me. You know, the door to hell was guarded by two demons, and El Chamuco was addressing his followers.
Okay.
You know? Yeah. So maybe some of the Hispanic callers later on in the remaining of the program can comment on that. But keep that in mind, that word, El Chamuco. I think that is going to be hung around Biden's neck, especially from Hispanics from here until November. Okay, that's my comment, and we'll see.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. Remember that term, El Chamuco.
El Chamuco. Okay, I'll have to look further into that here. So, well, okay, appreciate your perspective there, and thank you for the point in the call. You have a good one.
Okay, bye.
All right. That's definitely going to take us to that next break right now. Kathy Coterie disagreeing with this, saying no blue, only black and red. The blue was more off to the sides there and wasn't really in the central framing that came up there. There was some of it, but again, we'll talk more about all this and all the things we do after this break with more here, Talk El Paso, here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, if you want to get on the line, the number to do so there and add your own 2 cents is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A multi-vehicle crash, I-10 westbound at Hawkins, is blocking 2 left lanes. Expect delays. I-10 westbound is slow from the loop to the 54 Patriot with 11-minute delays. Lee Trevino southbound after Montwood Drive, an accident. Police on the scene there. Take Loma Land as your alternate. And Stanton north of Schuster Avenue at Hague Road, an accident reported there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Discover. We could talk about how complicated other banks make it to redeem credit card rewards. Or we could talk about how with Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Talk about amazing. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean. Mike, gotta go.
Yee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
Do you think it's okay to drive stoned? The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Stop kidding yourself. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Endless Summer Sale, August 26th through September 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $29.39. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're on today here. A lot of commentary coming in there, including some other nicknames being mentioned here. Kathy Codry referring to El Smucko. And give the context more. I mean, you can pretty well pick it up from the context clues from our previous caller there, but El Chamuco, the translation or definition being given in Spanish here, nombre que se da al diablo. So, yeah, I get that if you didn't pick up the context there, but I guess we're taking more of those comments and calls as we do during every point of the show here, and James Ratcliffe with some further allusions to the demonic there here, and Edgar Ortiz saying that Biden probably knows El Chamuco personally, and a whole lot more there coming in. Edgar Ortiz also saying a little bit earlier, saying that referring to the lack of APDA filing cases, there are unfair consequences for both potential defendants as well as plaintiffs. At the end of the day, rights delayed are rights denied, and the most guilty party here is the DA office. I fully expect that there is going to be, well, we got a whole lot more going on this. Again, do have a request in with the district attorney's office to speak further with the district attorney herself or someone else from the office about this situation, but, well, only time will tell if we'll get more on that. Otherwise, we'll be pushing them for statements on some more of these case dismissals and things like that here. I do want to say that coming up next week, we are going to be having on Tuesday, we are going to be having conversation further with the city on the whole migrant response they've been dealing with lately, including that decision to do busing out of the area and how that is, both the decision was reached, how it, has impacted things, including some of the relationships with the nonprofits that have otherwise been pretty well working with the city on that here, and just what the plan is and what some of those questions y'all been bringing up there. So if you got some of those questions, feel free to drop them in there in the chat, or if you want to call in and ask that here, we'll be doing that on Tuesday. Quick programming note. Of course, Monday is Labor Day. We will be out of the office here. Office is closed, even if you might find me out at an event or two. But so we'll be not on the air at that point, but we'll be back Tuesday. Don't worry, with some of those brand new interviews, of course, here. So let's get more of those calls on the line here. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. And I just have to refer to Eric von Holstein Rathlow's message there about certain leaders dividing people and blaming other people. And I brought up what I thought was another example. I'll take it as an agreement there as History Rhymes. Oh, God bless it. I wish it didn't so much. And it's a horrible song for that matter. Well, for the most part. There's some good parts. I like the melody very, very occasionally. Any case, Jerry Hart also commenting and saying, a great end of the week show. Glad you appreciate it. We'll keep talking about these and other things. So let's go back to those phone lines again. 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. We do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. One of your callers recently, in speaking of President Nixon, really got my dander up, and I usually don't get so excited, emotional about these things. I'll tell you what, it is easy to kick a person when he's down. Sure. And I don't like that tactic. And besides, with President Nixon, he did perhaps a lot of bad for this country, and is the only president in our history, as you know, who had to resign because of all that pressure and threat of impeachment.
Right.
Ever. However, there are many people who are alive today or who lived until very recently because he is the man responsible for ending U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War on 28 January 1973. And he got most of our prisoners of war back. And I'm sure every one of them is grateful to President Nixon for having saved them from further torture and captivity in Hanoi, Hilton, and such places. JFK and LBJ, who were in that war also as presidents, didn't. George McGovern was not elected. Maybe he could have done it, but he wasn't around as president. Nixon was. And it just bothers me. And I've gotten into some heated conversations with people who were never there. I was there. I was there on the 28th of January, 1973, when our involvement ended. And I met those prisoners of war. I shook hands with them later on. And the expressions in their faces is something to behold. And easy, as I say, to knock someone like President Nixon, he's disgraced and all this. It's another thing to tout what he did in getting our people back and stopping that war is completely something else. And I'd like to get your ideas on that. And then that's all. I'm really emotionally upset about this. I really am, because President Nixon, to me, was a hero in many ways, stopping that war, etc. The other things that he did, history will judge him. But I really respect him, and I stand up for him. That's about all I got to say, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the perspective there and for the point in the call. I mean, honestly, that is not one that you hear that often here. And as much as, the most thing that is often focused on, whether it be TV, popular media, even study of history, usually ends up being the end of the presidency. And the movies such as, I don't think I can quite say the title here, spelled D-I-C-K, for the nickname for the president, the former president there. But yeah, it's to paint, anytime we paint with a broad brush, we're often covering over many of the finer details. And that's, I can't even really personally imagine that kind of situation of having to then go and greet the returning POWs like that. I mean, that's just completely so far removed from my life experience that trying to even imagine it here, I'm just coming up blank. So to try and even think about that is literally incredible. And to think about the impacts coming from there, I mean, every presidency going straight back to the beginning has been those that have been full of many different controversies, many different issues. And it's often, I mean, it's tempting, as we do any study of history or even just current events, to be wanting to label something simply good or bad, as this was a good presidency, this was a bad presidency. Of course, everyone's entitled to the opinion if they want to call it one, but as is often the case in life, the truth and reality are far more complicated. Good and bad are more or less narrative terms. There's something that we can use to, you can put a simple label, shelve it away, and it's good for, the telling of stories. This was a good person, this was a bad person. The shades of gray and the million shades of gray that exist in real life they don't fit nice, neat narratives as much here. But that's the weird thing about, the whole idea of stranger than fiction as both a general phrase and, of course, the popular media that exists about it here, is that the thing about fiction is we have to be able to understand it. We have to be able to follow the flow of it, because if it was, a nonsensical story, no one would pay attention to it. Reality has no such constraints on it. Reality is by no means, and events and individuals are by no means bound by our understanding of them. So that means that, sure, nice, neat narratives are the way we tend to interpret the world. And heck, when we have those narratives start being disturbed a bit, or at least challenged, the brain, the human psyche actually kind of reacts almost as if it's been injured, almost like a wounded animal is the way we tend to react whenever that worldview, that narrative is challenged. But, of course, reality, again, has no such constraints. Things can be good and bad simultaneously. That's why I've been chided at times by others saying that yes and no is a frequent answer I give, because, that ends up being the case more often than not. And this doesn't mean that there can't be black and white situations either, to muddle even further. So getting back to your core thing there about, Richard Nixon and his presidency and the part of it here, sure, again, large parts of it defined by the end of it, and kind of being one of the biggest, I guess, political boogeymen of, don't be like him kind of thing. But to say that all of the things, absolutely everything that happened during that presidency was bad, as much could be said about any presidency, would absolutely be a fallacy. Because to look at the individual impacts that have happened there, I mean, I guess one of the things that really opened my eyes when I was a younger man, anyway, was when I came up to the idea of Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, the guy from India that is often held up as the epitome of nonviolent protest and peacefulness. And how could anyone, I mean, obviously there were the people that were opposed to him in power that may not like him, but otherwise that he did such good things for the people. Finding someone from India that I was able to speak to who says, oh no, he ruined the livelihood for my family. We had good workers, things like that, and we're not able to do anything more. He ruined our lives. I hate that person. Hear that kind of perspective and not think like oh man, this must be an evil person I'm talking to, but rather this person has a completely different perspective on a very historical person that I thought I knew, the general purpose of and the general ideas of what he wanted to accomplish, but maybe that wasn't the whole story here. But again, fitting of nice, neat narratives, as much as it is persuasive and as easy as it is to tell. Like, if you have to keep putting asterisks by every statement you make, it doesn't make for a nice, neat narrative. People don't tend to listen to that kind of thing, which is why, as much as I would love for everyone to listen to the show, I also understand that facing hard truths, facing reality it's not for everyone. This is not to say that I am some immortal arbiter of truth that will always get it right here, but in the discussion, in the efforts of doing so, I find that more often than not, we can arrive at that kind of a point here. So we'll keep doing it as much as we can. So thank you very much for the point and the call. Again, do appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, get a couple more calls on the line here. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The FBI in El Paso was investigating a bank robbery at a GECU location on Vista del Sol. A man entered the bank at about 11 o'clock this morning and shots were fired. The FBI says the suspect was wearing a construction vest and a large straw sombrero. They said no injuries were reported. The bank robber fled on foot, running toward Yarborough. The city of El Paso had the first of 9 meetings last night to inform residents about 3 propositions that City Council placed on the November ballot. After surveying about 2,000 people, the city says El Pasoans want streets, parks, and action on climate change. The bonds are broken down into 3 propositions. Proposition A focuses on expanding El Paso streets and will cost about $246 million. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
2 left lanes are blocked from a crash on I-10 westbound at Hawkins Boulevard. It's causing a backup with 11-minute delays from the Loop to the 54 Patriot. Gateway northbound at Trans Mountain, an accident reported there. Police on the scene of a crash, Lee Trevino Drive southbound after Montwood Drive. Take Lomaland or Montwood as your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
After a cloudy and wet period with on and off rain, we'll start to see brighter and drier conditions moving back in. Expect a partly cloudy to mostly cloudy sky tonight with a few spotty showers area-wide. Temperatures will also be a bit cooler overnight as they drop into the middle 60s. Coming up tonight, we'll take a look at your holiday weekend forecast, plus when we could see a slight uptick in our storm activity. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kira Miner.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has everything for school at prices that won't hold you back. One subject notebooks are 35 cents each. Plus, during the backpack clearance event, save up to 50% on select backpacks, lunch bags, and water bottles. In-store only. Offer ends 9/3. Limit 30 on notebooks. Send your kids forward to school at Staples.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso. Weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you. Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And let's talk El Paso.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Hi, this is U.S. Congressman Tony Gonzalez. Are you paying more for just about everything? I know I am. Inflation is costing Texas families thousands of dollars more for everyday goods like groceries. That's why in Congress, I'm working against reckless government spending to help put a stop to skyrocketing inflation. If you have any questions for me about my work to combat inflation, please do not hesitate to reach out at 210-806-9920 or online at gonzales.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Does it feel like liberty in America is slipping away as the government grows even more powerful? Who better to turn to than Ron Paul for answers? Make sure to listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media channels we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of commentary coming in there, including from RJ, Kathy Codry, James Radcliffe, Edgar Ortiz, Maria Coleman, Ted Gores, Jerry Hart, Eric von Holstein Rathlau, and Juan Anzuris. Made a lot of commentary coming in, Stephen Christopher a little bit earlier, dropping those likes and reacts, more specifically Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Jerry Hart, James Holmes, Ida Beza Gardner, Fred Marcus, Flaco Jimenez, and Ted Gores. RJ saying most recently, keep hope alive. I think that it's up to each and every individual one of us to work on that hope for ourselves here, but it's a good sentiment, definitely. But in case, let's back to those phone lines now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Nixon was before my time. I didn't call about this, but I was just curious. He was got in trouble because he spied on the opposition campaign. Is that right?
Yeah, the whole Watergate scandal, the original Watergate scandal, and the raiding of the Democrat at national headquarters kind of thing, or at least the office there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting how the tables are so different when it's a Republican who gets caught spying on an opposition political campaign. Meanwhile, the spying on Donald Trump happened under Obama. They used Christopher Steele, who was a foreign spy, to create the Steele dossier, which was a bunch of made-up opposition research. And then they used the intelligence agencies, our intelligence agencies, to spy on Donald Trump's campaign. And even though he was essentially the victim, it turned out that the media was able to turn Donald Trump into this terrible person and supposedly colluded with Russia and all that stuff. So we think of the modern media being very biased against Republicans, but even back in Nixon's time, I suspect that it was harsh against Nixon, maybe overly harsh. And the cover-up was worse than the crime, from what I've heard. Again, that was all before my time. But I didn't want to call about that.
Sure.
I just wanted to remind people about COVID-19, because there's a couple stories that came out this last week about the effect that it had on children. There's a couple studies that came out that children haven't been this adversely affected in their education for decades. So reading and mathematics scores are extremely low due to the shutdowns from the pandemic, and a population that was never really at risk in the first place. And I can understand when people wanted to close things down to give the teachers an opportunity to get the shots and the vaccines to protect themselves. But even after that, well beyond that, they were keeping schools shut down after the teachers could get their vaccinations. And it was really nonsensical. And it was really the Democrats pushing those long, hardcore shutdowns and masking. There was a CNN doctor who would go on CNN and really push all that stuff really hard. And she's just now admitting that her own child, for own child was developmentally delayed in speech because of
Mhm.
the hardcore masking that she and others were pushing on children, and that's happening across the board. So people should really remember that these hardcore lockdowns that the study showed didn't really work all that well, and the mandatory masking for children didn't really work all that well, and had all these adverse effects. So, when people say, "Oh, these MAGA people or whatever, they're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about," it's just another example of how we say, "Well, let's hold on. There's other adverse effects. You have to look at these different things that may affect people long term. The lockdowns are maybe going to cause starvation worldwide because there's still supply chain issues. There's still things with fertilizers and farming across the world that may cause lots of people to starve, including children and minorities who are more adversely affected than other people." And you have bleeding heart liberals who pretend that they care about that kind of thing, but they really, a lot of times, don't have the logic to back up what they're pushing. So we need to be reminded of those things from time to time. And no, it's not because we're fascists. It's not because we hate democracy. It's because we have ideas and arguments that should be listened to, because there's a reality that sets in whenever you implement these policies and these side effects that are going to hurt people, just like the welfare state and the cycle of poverty that a lot of Democrat cities find themselves in. And the final thing I wanted to bring up was the climate change thing. I know they're pushing this climate change thing here in El Paso.
Right.
The big bill that the Democrats pushed through, claiming that was going to help inflation, but that was a ruse. It was basically as much of the Green Deal that they could get through. That's what that bill really was. According to the climate models, is going to slow down global warming by 0.00009 degrees. And that's the help that's going to get, but we're going to get a bunch of debt and we're going to slow down our economy and, have brownouts and blackouts because they're going to try to stop all the fossil fuel use. And it's going to probably hurt a lot of people too. And we should be thankful that we had Donald Trump for 4 years, and we would have been 4 years further along the pathway that now Europe is in, and they're going to have a lot of trouble this winter. And they're going to have a lot of issues. They already are having them, and so we should be thankful that we had someone who had some good policies in place. And I know a lot of people don't like his personality, but the policies, I think, were better. So those were the things I wanted to bring up. Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when it comes to, the whole Gazprom thing and the inevitable, oh, by the way, we're shutting down the pipeline thing, like we all saw that coming a mile away, right? Even if it was, they're calling it a maintenance shutdown for a week here, right at some of the critical points of filling the gas supply here. I mean, Germany's in a better position than it could have been if it was still reliant on about 50% of its supply from there. I mean, it's still reliant on about 10% of its supply as a nation, so that's nothing to sneeze at, but at least it saw some of the writing on the wall, even if it had been on that wall for years. So yeah, I'm very happy that they're moving that way and that we're nowhere near that position, even if getting back to the whole net energy exporter status, because that's one of the finer points that's often missed here. We were still importing things like gasoline because we don't have all the facilities here in the U.S. to develop it, unless we were truly moving towards natural gas as everything, or other things such as, potentially hydrogen. Those would take more infrastructure changes, maybe not totally of the same bent, because you don't have to, there are adapters you can use as opposed to completely changing the vehicles to be able to use them in combustion engines. For the most part, there's a whole lot more complexity there. But, we still would need some supplies to keep it going just as is, so some more changes would still be needed. But yeah, looking at the international geopolitical situation and where the energy supplies are coming from, that has essentially been an extension of Russia's foreign policy for decades now. And even if they're having been changing their reliance, they're bringing, particularly Germany, not to pick on them, but that's one of the most reporting been going on recently. They're still then expecting us to pick up the slack in many other ways. So it's still going to be a fraught situation coming with that there. And just one final point here, I get what you're getting at when you're talking about Nixon and one point versus the other and how spying is. I'll say there's a slight difference between, say, what was maybe couched as opposition research and actually breaking into a building and rifling through file cabinets, even if that might be it may be not the most important point to make. They'll all concede that.
Yeah, I guess more of my point was using our own FBI or intelligence agencies and using those organizations, which should be they should be apolitical and they should evenly treat both sides on the political aisle. They don't seem to be doing it that way. And if you use the IRS in order to punish your political opponents or the FBI to spy on your political opponents or the CIA or whatever, that's a very dangerous for a democracy. And
Definitely,
for all the crying about, Republicans are supposedly dangerous for democracy. I mean, a lot of things that have been going on from the Democrat side is very dangerous for democracy, and using those organizations that should be apolitical in that way, that's very, very dangerous. And I just was reminded of something else that that seemed a little bit uneven was the Hillary Clinton thing and the Mar-a-Lago thing. I would say one difference is that Hillary's server was connected to the internet that was being hacked by foreign countries, and getting access to those classified documents is quite a bit different than something that's kind of locked away in a box that foreign agents weren't going to be able to get access to. And so there's a little bit of a difference between those two situations there too.
Yeah, fair enough here. Well, thanks for the point of the call. Do appreciate it.
Thanks.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of peculiarities of history that we're talking about here. And actually, on that proposition, our news partners over there at KFOX 14 have some of the information about those initial propositions, and the information coming out about them was mentioned there in the news update about the Proposition A, about $246.48 million for street improvements, including new sidewalks, streetcapes, traffic control, and planning. We've talked about that one a little bit earlier in the year when it initially came out, but the two other propositions, $20.8 million for parks and recreational facilities, and Proposition C, $5.2 million for renewable energy and resource use efficiency improvements and planning. And to that point here, Stephen Christopher saying, I believe, these are my thing, I'm all in favor for a cleaner way of living, but these policies are cutting stuff off before the replacement technology is in place. Makes no sense. And RJ bringing up there that love California doing away with gasoline cars. Please don't charge your electric cars during peak hours. How will that work in 2035? Again, if a magic wand could be waved and make these things just happen and implemented perfectly, yeah, I'd probably use them more. But we're nowhere near them fully being implemented. I mean, even the adoption of the internal combustion engine was, let's call that roughly a 70 to 100 year process, really, from when they became first really available up until now. And does that say you can just replace all that infrastructure overnight? Just not reflective of reality here. Let's get to at least one more call here. We do have Mario on the east side here with us right now. Mario, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hello, Andrew. I want to make a few comments on the speech that Biden made the other day.
Sure thing.
First of all, I think that he missed a great opportunity to unite the nation, as we have heard that he is a great unifier. The nation is already divided. Why would he want to demonize the other side, the Republicans? The speech was horrible, very divisive. It was a political speech for the DNC. After listening, I noticed that, age does not guarantee wisdom. This man lacks wisdom. Think about it. He's supposed to reach out to the Republicans, but instead he spent time calling Republicans mega crowd, mega, that there were existential threat to the country, that those who voted for Trump are a threat to the country. Now think about that, okay? He could have spent time talking about how he's going to bring the crime down, how he's going to tackle the inflation, how he's going to fix the borders, how is he going to stop fentanyl coming over the border that killed over 106,000 of our young people here in America? Why would he just not talk about that? This is a crisis that we have. Kids that are getting killed because of the fentanyl is crossing over the border. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't want to do nothing about it. But rather, he want to smear and demonize 74 million people who voted for Trump. Now, think about this. He called MAGA Republicans, we represent extremists threats to the foundation of our republic. And I'm quoting, MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. Really? I respect the Constitution. I'm a Republican. I know a lot of beautiful Republican people that respect the Constitution. And then he said that mega forces are determined to take this country backwards. Really? Biden's policy have taken America backward. Look at the high prices. We didn't have high prices, inflation, high gasoline during the Trump administration, but we do have it under Biden's administration. Now, I know most Republicans, and even Democrats, they wake up on a regular day, they go to work, pay their taxes, they take care of their families, they try to teach their kids morals, they try to teach them to obey the law. But Biden, he just spent the time demonizing us, that we were really going backwards and that we are going to be a threat to the country.
I mean, again, it's something I've also been thinking about, the fact that if we're talking about a uniting speech, bringing people together, they usually don't cross paths with a political speech there. But tell you what, we got to take that next break now so we can come back. So I do appreciate the point in the call, but we got to take that next break so we can come and close out the show. Tell you we got coming up for you next week and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound slow this afternoon for the ride home. A crash at Hawkins Boulevard, blocking the left 2 lanes and causing an 11-minute backup. I-10 westbound slowing starts at McRae Boulevard. A crash reported southbound Memorial Highway at Bob Hope exit. Gateway North at Trans Mountain, another crash reported, and an accident slowing traffic Zaragoza northbound at Border Highway. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
If you like good stories that aren't woke, then listen to Red Pilled America on the free iHeartRadio app. You won't regret it. We tell the stories you want to hear and changing hearts and minds in the process. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Save money and energy at home this summer by using window coverings, such as curtains or shades, to prevent heat gain through your windows during the day. Some shades can reduce unwanted solar heat through windows by up to 60%. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Endless Summer Sale, August 26th through September 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $29.39. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Nah, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Heads up, Texas.
So you don't rear end me when I'm at a stoplight.
So I can ride my bike safely.
So I don't have to write you a ticket.
Heads up, Texas, because driving and using your phone is a bad combination. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
That is going to do it for us here today. We are super out of time for this show here, so we have crammed in quite all that we could here. So a couple things I want to tell you about coming up for you. Again, we're going to be off Monday, Labor Day. Hope you all have a safe and healthy Labor Day out there. Take the day off if you can. Our offices will be closed, so I kind of have to. But otherwise, we'll be back with you Tuesday. And again, on Tuesday, going to be talking with the city about that local migrant response what's going on with it and what comes next, all those parts of it here. But also going to be talking more about some of those 9/11 memorial events going on, including a Keeping the Flag Moving event coming up. But we're talking about that next week as well. So I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again Monday, not Monday, but every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., just not this coming one, starting on Tuesday. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles and out on the road. Have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound slow this afternoon for the ride home. A crash at Hawkins Boulevard, blocking the left 2 lanes and causing an 11-minute backup. I-10 westbound slowing starts at McRae Boulevard. A crash reported southbound Memorial Highway at Bob Hope exit. Gateway North at Trans Mountain, another crash reported, and an accident slowing traffic Zaragoza northbound at Border Highway. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.